these rape allegations are crucial because, the, the people who, we have a bad history of violence against women, against children in our societies. So when we hear about these allegations of rape or against children or women, we immediately solidarize. We stand immediately in solidarity with the victims. That's very weird how these rape allegations have been used against people who have been critical about the war on terror, for example. It's weird how many of the people critical about the abuses of the war on terror ended up in the rape case. I'm not telling that the rape allegations against Julian Assange are plot or conspiracy. I'm not telling this. I just want that you focus on how these allegations have been used to deny solidarity to Julian. So you have to realize that in Sweden there are three kinds of rapes: rape, gross rape, normal rape, minor rape. In the case of Julian Assange, the investigation was opened the 20th of August 2010. Initially, the police, so two women went to the police. They didn't say he raped us. They wanted to file a complaint for having Julian Assange take a test for sexually transmitted illnesses. And we know this. How do we know this? So how do we know that the two women didn't go to the police and say he did rape us? We know this because there have been many many steps in this case, and so there are agreed facts between these two parts. And so we know that the two women just went to the police to have Julian Assange to take these tests. They didn't say he raped us, but the police opened the case as rape. So initially, the 20th of August 2010, let's not forget that 20th of August 2010 was not even 4 weeks after Julian Assange WikiLeaks had published the Afghan war logs. Again, I'm not telling that it was a plot, just giving you the chronology. So the two women went to the police. The police treated the case as a rape case. 5 days after, the Stockholm chief prosecutor, Eva Finney, closed the rape investigation and said the investigation revealed no crime whatsoever. And she left the investigation open for sexual molestation. Julian Assange was questioned about sexual molestation the 31st of August 2010. The day after, a new prosecutor, Marianni, reopened the investigation for rape. Okay? Initially, the case was opened as rape, but after the case went to the Swedish Court of Appeal, the Swedish Court of Appeal treated the case as minor rape, the less serious crime. So if you had been charged for this crime, you would risk something like 2 weeks in prison, maximum 4 years in prison. What is weird about this case? The weird things about this case is that from the 1st of September 2010 until to the 19th May 2017, when the Swedish prosecutors finally dropped the case, this investigation has always remained at the preliminary stage. So this investigation for the less serious crime of rape has remained at the preliminary stage for 7 years, which is really weird. It's really weird because usually when you open an investigation, especially an investigation about alleged sex crimes, you immediately question the person under investigation, you gather evidence. Because at that point, when you open the investigation, you acquire these facts, your memories are fresh. So the alleged victims have facts fresh, the witnesses have their minds fresh. They waited for 7 years before going to London to question Julian Assange. And then they basically closed the investigation. So when I first look at this case, and I realized that no journalist had tried to get the documents about this case, I said, it's really weird. And a very prominent Italian prosecutor told me, look, our prosecutor traveled the world to question very bad people, mafia people, dangerous people. Why this Swedish prosecutor couldn't travel to Sweden, to London to question this person? It's really weird. You should try to investigate why they didn't go there. Because this decision not to go there to question Julian Assange is basically at the center of the whole case. Because basically this decision, Julian Assange never refused to be questioned. Actually, it was questioned. It was questioned the 31st of August 2010. He refused to be extradited. And the weird thing is that the Swedish prosecutor didn't want to question him unless he surrendered himself and they were able to extradite him. Julian Assange consulted with his lawyers, and his lawyers thought there was a serious risk that once extradited to Sweden, he could be extradited to the US. I mean, it doesn't matter whether we agree or we don't agree. I mean, he had legal counseling, you listen to your lawyers, His lawyers tried to ask Sweden for some diplomatic guarantees that he would not be extradited to US if he was extradited to Sweden. Sweden refused to provide any guarantees. So at that point, Julian Assange refused to go to get extradited to Sweden. So Julian Assange never ever refused to be questioned about the Swedish allegations. He refused to be extradited because he was convinced that this extradition to Sweden could pave the way to extradition to the US. The problem is that prosecutors have tools, coercive tools. It's not that if you are at the center of an investigation, everything is based on your collaboration. If you are under investigation, prosecutors can use the laws, can question you, can file a mutually legal assistance request to London and say, look, we want to go to the embassy, we want to come to London, question this person for these alleged crimes. They didn't. They waited years before going there. And you wonder why. Because, I mean, if you have a strong case about a person, you go there, you question him, and you charge him, and at that point you extradite him. They didn't. They waited and waited and waited. Finally, in 2015, the Swedish prosecutor Marianne decided to go to London to question Julian Assange. Why? They suddenly go there because two important things had happened. In September 2014, Julian Assange had filed his complaint to the UN Working Group on Arbitrary Detention, saying, look, they are not charging me, they are not questioning me, they are not dropping the case. I'm in a legal limbo with no end in sight. So in September 2014, he did so. He did file the complaint. And in November 2014, the Swedish Court of Appeal confirmed the arrest warrant against him, but censored, but heavily criticized publicly the Swedish prosecutor for not exploring any solution. Basically, they realize here we have a judicial paralysis. This paralysis is denying justice to Julian Assange, is denying justice to the two women. So the Swedish Court of Appeal criticized the actions of the Swedish prosecutor. Only at that point, few months after, in March 2015, the Swedish prosecutor said, well, we go to London to question him 5 years after they had opened their investigation. But at that point, it was very late. For example, the sexual molestation allegations had an expired in August 2015. How could the Swedish prosecutor think of being able to question him before the statute of limitation for the sexual molestation? I mean, he was a man inside an embassy. You need a protocol to question people. You need agreement, judicial cooperation agreement between states. You don't go around questioning people. You need protocols and so on. So in March 2015, when the Swedish prosecutor finally decided to go to London to question him, it was very, very late, because in August 2015, the statute of limitations for sexual molestation expired. At that point, the two women and Julian Assange had no opportunity whatsoever to have any kind of justice for those allegations. Okay, so finally in 2015 they decided. At that point, Ecuador and Sweden signed a protocol for judicial cooperation. And finally, in November 2016, the Swedish prosecutor went there and questioned Julian. And in March, they decided to drop the case again. Why? I mean, if they had a strong case, why not to go ahead? I mean, why not? I mean, they could have charged him. And then if he resisted the extradition, that could have been quite embarrassing for Julian Assange, because there were charges. They never filed charges. In May 2017, they dropped the investigation. And now they have reopened the case once again. So 9 years after the case was opened, they have opened the case 3 times. And still, Assange has not been charged for anything. It's a very, very weird handling of the case. It's very weird. I got some of the documents after 4 years of legal battle with Sweden and the UK. What did the documents reveal? Well, the documents reveal that it was the UK authorities who told the Swedish prosecutor not to go to London to question Julian Assange. Why? Well, the documents don't provide an explanation, because they released me so few documents that it's impossible to understand how this decision was taken. What was the rationale behind this decision? And what else? They revealed that the UK authorities write to the Swedish prosecutors, please do not think that this extradition case is being dealt with as just another extradition request. Why this extradition request is special? Again, the documents don't provide explanation, because they gave me only 226 pages. The document revealed something more than this. They revealed that in 2013, the Swedish prosecutor realized that there was a complete judicial paralysis, and there was even a diplomatic quagmire, because Julian Assange had took refuge in the Ecuadorian embassy. So a diplomatic quagmire added to a judicial paralysis. At that point, the Swedish prosecutor starts questioning the advice they had received from the UK authorities. At that point, they considered to drop the investigation. But again, the UK authorities opposed to this possibility of closing the investigation. Why? What kind of special interest they had in the case? I mean, if this was just a stupid sex case, not stupid. I don't want to offend anyone here because it's fair to have a proper investigation what really happened. So it's important to address the allegation. But if this was just a sex case, Swedish case, what was the interest on the UK side for advising them not to go to London, for saying that this case is not like another extradition request, for saying that this the Supreme Court handling of the case is different from any other, from not dropping the case in 2013. It's really weird, but it's not all. When I asked for the Swedish authorities, could you please give me all the documents? Because here there are gaps. It's impossible to understand the case. Give me all the documents. They said, we destroyed them. You destroyed the documents. Yes, we destroyed the document. But the case is still ongoing. It's highly controversial. Why did you destroy the documents? No explanation. So we are still fighting with lawyers to get the documents and to understand what's wrong about the case.
Wondering the truth.
Wondering just, but what is weird about this case is that he is going on since 2010, and to these days, there are no charges. The investigation has been opened 3 times. And this, as the UN Special Rapporteur on Torture said, this rape case has been going on for years, and in the public opinion, perception, he has always been perceived as a rapist when to these days there are no charges at all.